Happy day, everybody. We're back with a little bit of a talky video. We're going to talk a little bit about Welcome to Rockville. We've been getting inundated with messages, both in comments on YouTube and on the socials, about like, hey, when are you guys going to do another Rockville video? And quite honestly, Rockville is less than a month away. I was waiting for the lineup to drop to be able to talk through, like, the potential overlap, things like that. But it hasn't dropped yet, so we're a little bit out of a loss. But I have my classic 2015, the tornado year, Rockville shirt on, so we're gonna do it. For the experienced Rockville vets, this probably isn't much new stuff for you, but for the amount of people that I keep seeing that are new and in the Facebook groups and things like that, asking the same repetitive questions that we get every year, although up until this point we really haven't had many people complaining about like what happens when it rains and things like that in the comments, which is maybe good, but instead we're just getting kind of the war between like this band sucks, that band sucks type of thing, and freedom of speech, it's all good. But let's talk a little bit about Rockville. For the know again, 4 days happening May 15th through the 18th at Daytona International Speedway. Tickets are still on sale. There's general admission tickets, there's VIP tickets, there are owners club tickets. All of the tickets are still available as of this time. So individual days and 4-day tickets, which is remarkable because the last couple of outings, tickets have sold out by this time, especially for like owners club and VIP, which we're not seeing this year so far. But in any event, if you're still interested in buying tickets and you haven't pulled the trigger yet, I would do so by going to the Rockville website. I wouldn't buy through like people on Facebook that are saying, hey, I've got tickets for sale and my Uncle Joe had this misfortune and he passed away and I just happen to have 3 tickets plus 2 camping spots and blah, blah, blah. 9 times out of 10, you're going to get scammed by people that are reselling things through Facebook processes. And it's a never-ending amount of people that are posting on Facebook that they've been scammed, or hey, this guy ripped me off and so forth. And buyer beware. Of course, your mileage may vary. You could find some folks that are honest, but unfortunately, the honest people get punished by all of the bad apples out there. But 4 days, Thursday through Sunday. Wednesday night is also a night for people to go see a show. It's the Wednesday night camping show. In the first year they introduced the show, I think Steel Panther played the first year, it was exclusively for people that were camping. So you couldn't get to that show unless you were camping on site. Last year, I want to say it was last year, maybe the year before, but I know for sure it was last year, you could buy a ticket to go to that show. This year, again, you could buy a ticket to that show. It's headlined by like Pop Evil and Nonpoint. That show is obviously a lot less crowded than the other days that you're going to go to the event, but it's not included in your 4-day ticket unless you are camping. If you're camping, you get in that show for free. If you want to go to that show and you're not camping, the price of like $25 gets you in the door and also lets you park your car. And while we talk about parking, and this video is going to be all over the place, by the way, while we talk about parking, you could have prepaid for parking. I'm not sure if prepaid parking is still available. I've seen messages online, at least, that say that it's sold out. But even if it's sold out, they sell parking online, or they sell parking at the event. And I couldn't tell you how much it is per day because we haven't reached that day yet. But in advance, I want to say it was like maybe $25-30 a day or somewhere in that range. The parking price is exorbitant. And it is that way for any event that you go to at Daytona International Speedway. You're kind of locked into, if you don't buy parking there, do you want to risk it and park across the street or somewhere else at like Best Buy or wherever, and not pay and pretend like you're a patron of their store, and then gamble on, when I come back out from the event, will my car still be there? Because the tow truck companies make a shit ton of money from people that play that game and gamble on things. So if you haven't paid for parking yet, I would say, I think parking is card only. And by the way, like, there's conflicting information. The last couple of years, the event has really been just cards only. But yet the people that are serving drinks, like at the kiosk bars and things like that, they've taken cash for tips. I would always say, err on the side of both. be sure that you have a card, because for the most part, anything that you're getting at like the festival merch, shirts and things like that, it's going to be card only. But you know, I would sooner tip in cash for some of the people working the bars than tipping with cards, because when you buy anything, including if you're buying a t-shirt, whether it's a Danny Wimmer Presents t-shirt or it's a band t-shirt, they're going to flip the screen to you and say, hey, just follow the instructions and sign your thing. But the instructions are how much of a tip do you want to give, like 18, 20, 22% or other type of thing. It's always an awkward thing, and I know there are a lot of people that are Mr. Pink that don't want to tip at all, and that should be probably the bulk of everybody, because you're getting paid to just basically go fetch a shirt from a box and put it in front of somebody to purchase for like $50. But you're going to be asked for that tip with the thing. Same thing happens when you're at the bar stands at times, and I've seen reports of, you know, people that may be unscrupulous that are working at some of these places that, you know, you put down like, you know, hey, I'm going to give you like a 18% or 20% tip, and you flip the screen back and put in some other amount, and people get some crazy charges on their cards. So just buyer beware. Make sure you're finishing the transaction while the thing's facing you, so that nobody can inadvertently, accidentally add some additional money to what you're paying for something. And for those playing along at home, I have like a whole cheat sheet thing, so I don't forget things. But speaking of merch, what some of the questions I see online are, do bands sell their own merch there and things like that, and as well as like the Danny Wimmer Presents shirts like this is an old shirt. Danny Wimmer has, or DWP has, multiple tents around the event that sell their festival merch, which is festival merch being like welcome to Rockville, not Walkville. Branded merch like, you know, shirts, hats, things like that, the medallions, things. They'll sell them around the venue as well as in the main merch tent. There is one main merch tent. The line for that merch tent can be extremely long if you don't hit it at the very start of the day or at the close of the day when the headliners are playing. The merch tent line is very long. It's very difficult to see what's for sale until you get up to the never-ending table of things, of cash registers and people that are there to sell you stuff. The shirts will run probably somewhere between $40 to $60 a piece, and it is expensive for band merch for sure. Keep in mind, the majority of the bands that are playing there, especially if they're not at the very top of the bill, they're not getting paid a lot of money to be there. They're looking for people to buy their merchandise, and they're playing these shows for exposure, and that's the way festivals normally go. But in any event, that tent is probably 30 degrees hotter than what it is outside, and at Rockville, usually every year when it's in May, it's really hot. So let's talk about what to bring. You want to bring sunscreen, not aerosol sunscreen, because they don't let that in. They only let the tube, like, you know, squeezable gel or paste type of sunscreen in. But if you don't bring sunscreen in, you're going to get roasted. There is virtually no shade at the event, right? So if you're camping there, or if you get a locker, because they do sell lockers for the entirety of the weekend, and the lockers come with the plug that you could charge your phone or electronics in. You probably want to bring like extra shoes or socks. When you're bringing shoes to Rockville, whatever shoes you're doing, like, this is not a fashionista type event, although I know we'll also say, like, Mary, my wife, is part of the Rockville fashionista group. But saying that, people plan their outfits for a bit, and they'll wear crazy shoes and boots and things like that, and the reality is your feet are going to get destroyed. There's a lot of walking at Rockville and a lot of standing, so and you're in the dirt for most of the time. So when you're in the dirt and everything, your shoes are going to be wrecked. It happens every year. So what we do is pretty much just use your old shoes that you've beaten up for the past year that are comfortable enough for you, and use those at Rockville. Maybe Band-Aids for your blisters. You can bring a little fan, like a little portable fan or a neck fan, or a cooling towel is good. Sunblock is of utmost importance. Or you could be a dummy like me and for years not being fully prepared with different things and going through skin cancer and having part of my ear removed at the end of last year. So that's an option too. You could look super cool and end up with skin cancer, but the price that you're gonna have to pay. The other thing to consider when you bring like stuff in, you can bring a poncho. You can't bring an umbrella. People ask about bringing those big tubes that you fill with air, and I'd say your mileage may vary with that because the rules specifically say they're not allowed. So all it takes is security cracking down on things, and to be able to say no, you're not allowed to bring that. And all of a sudden, it's a long walk back to the car and a long walk to get back through security again. Cell phones, cell service is nearly non-existent at the racetrack when it fills up. So you might be lucky when you get there when the doors open and you're still catching a signal. There's no Wi-Fi that spreads across the track and things like that. So your cell signal is, the more people that pack in, the less cell signal that you're going to have. So it becomes a point of, when you're there, plan on having meetup places and times for your particular posse of people that you're going with, because otherwise you may never see them again. There's going to be, upwards of 70,000 plus people per day that are trying to fit into this bowl of the infield at Rockville, and it becomes very difficult. There's been times that for sure that I've split up with my group and we haven't found each other for like 2-3 hours at a shot. I'm not going to get into hydration packs because the rules shift. Like, I know that there's no, when it comes to backpacks and things like that, it needs to be a clear backpack, or it could be a solid like clutch or a fanny pack type of thing. What I would say is, if you plan on bringing things and you bring a large bladder type bag to the event with your hose that you can suck on your water all day or whatever else you may load it up with, you're probably not going to get in. They did let them in last year on a day-by-day basis, only when it was realized just how hot and overbearing it was. And when it was hot, it was well beyond like the 100-degree real field temperature at that point. Having said that, there are free water filling stations all around the event. There are lines for those because everybody wants, free 99 is for me. They don't have bottles for you to fill up. So, if you're going to like a stand and you buy a bottle of water or you buy a bottle of Gatorade or whatever, they don't generally give you the cap to keep on that. So you can come in with like a fillable, like, I think it's just a plastic bottle of water. You can't bring a metal one in as far as I know. It's well worth it to do that, to save the money for, instead of paying like $6 a bottle of water as you're going along. The water's nothing to write home about. Like, it's not this, Dasani stuff or I think Dasani sucks. Like, I'm just using like what I could think of as a brand. It's not some great filtered water. It is filtered. It's very warm. It's a line to get you water. So it is free. So it is very much like, if you guys are old school Warped Tour people, it's very much like the Warped Tour back in the day. One thing I do want to talk about is, going back to security. Security is there, and I know people are like, can I bring in weed? Can I bring in, bottles? Can I bring in whatever? Like, there is a page on the Rockville website of exactly what you can bring in. Look at that page, and there's no, it's very black and white, what you can bring in and what you can't bring in. And if you're questioning, like, can I try to sneak something in or stuff like that, you're risking it just not getting in. But more importantly, security is your friend while you're there, and they're not there to break your balls and to make it a horrible day for you. In fact, last year, there was a rash of people coming in and stealing cell phones, and it was up to like security and the police to try to get involved. And when I say stealing, I mean, you keep things on you, keep them in your front pockets, don't leave your cell phone in your ass pocket, and assume that you're among friends and everything. People were in circle pits, people were just standing there watching shows and what have you, and the next thing you know, everything was stolen, and there was a big ring of people that were stealing the cell phones and selling them on the open market. And these cell phones moved, like they went from Daytona on a plane to China and to other places, and they were resold before you knew it. So be wary of what you are bringing, and be wary of what you have on you at any given time. So when you're talking about bags again, like fanny packs or things like that you're keeping things in front of you, that is probably the ultimate solution, and just being aware and cognizant of things. And while we speak about being aware and cognizant of things, when we go into a show and you're my age, you know, you were concerned about, like, if you're standing up front, you're no spring chickens, you're going to get kicked in the head, there's going to be pits going around and things like that. These shows are very active shows, and for all of the parents that are considering, like, can I bring my little kid and things like that, kids are great and everything, but I would be concerned about is, you know, having to watch somebody else, and then on top of it, watch the back of your head as people are crowd surfing. If you're in the middle of, you know, towards the stage, you're gonna have people crowd surfing on top of you. And if you're in the middle or the sides of the stage, and, you know, in proximity, depending on just how heavy the band is, like KubaCon, it pretty much everything was this gigantic mosh pit when they played the last time, and it is kind of unavoidable. But it is a fun part of the show for 80% of the people that are there. So, you know, for like us, when we go to the show, it's kind of a thing of stand to the side. It's cool. You could still get a good view of the show without getting mauled until you had enough beverages maybe, and then you do some of the mauling yourself there inside the crowd. If you haven't downloaded the app, I would say download the app, right? So the app is on iOS and it's on Android, but it will have your schedule. Right now there's nothing there as of the time that we're recording this, but you'll have the ability to see when bands are playing, as well as being able to make your own schedule so that you can set reminders and things like that for where bands are playing. There's also giveaways, there's a map and things like that on there. Always good to be able to screenshot things, because you go back to what I said before, cell phone's probably not going to work while you're there because of the lack of signal. So definitely something to consider, taking screenshots. But it is a very handy tool to be able to plan ahead. And speaking of planning ahead, while you're looking at the bands that you may want to see on any given day, and realizing the schedule's not out yet, there's going to be a ton of overlap, right? So there's going to be, hey, my favorite band A is playing on the big stage over here, but oh, my other favorite band B is on like the side stage over there. It's happening at the same time. Why did Rockville do this to me? Every year. And the more bands that they add, and this year is over 100 bands again, the more conflicts you're going to see. Always. And while we talk about bands and conflicts and things you want to see, we've kind of gone to this rule on an annual basis now of saying, like, hey, what's the top 3 bands or top 5 bands that you want to see every year, so that you're able to you know, just at least track to seeing those bands. And like I said, we go with a rather large party and everybody splits up to see different things. There's no way to see as many bands as you want to see. And I know our videos historically, we're kind of running from here, we're running from there, and I think a lot of the problem is that you get to see like 3 songs from favorite band A and 3 songs from favorite band B, and in the meantime, as you're crossing that path to walk a mile in between these stages, or, you know, I'm estimating like 7.7 of a mile, you're able to see some other band playing something else in the middle there, but there's always overlap. The bands that Mary and I have chosen to see, just in case anybody was interested, on Thursday, the bands that I'm looking forward to: Body Count, Rob Zombie, and Guar, and probably 3 Days Grace. Body Count, the last time, and I think the last time that I saw them was at Lemoore in Brooklyn with DRI, and it was a ridiculous show, like the amount of people just flying everywhere. And I met Ice-T the day or 2 after that, because he had a book that came out. I think it was Ice Speaks. He was doing a signing and told him that I was at the show. He was like, that shit was crazy. And it was the most insane Lemoore show that I ever saw. But on Thursday, Mary has down Bullet for My Valentine. Crossfade is her number 1 band to see that day, and Trivium, returning to local boys. Trivium was supposed to play Rockville, I want to say like 2 years ago. It was either 2 or 3 years ago, and we got doused with rain. So Trivium set was punted as a result. And that's one other thing to plan for: rain. All of the bands that are scheduled to play might not actually play if they're interrupted with, like, it's not rain, they'll still play in the water in the rain. But if there's lightning within like 10-mile radius of the racetrack, they need to shut down and have everybody go for shelter. So anyway, Friday, my bands are Everclear, and we just saw them like 2 years ago in Ace Cafe in Orlando. I love Everclear. Alice in Chains and August Burns Red, and I think my alternate band for that day is Silverstein. Mary is Knock Loose, Good Charlotte, and Alice in Chains. And we get to Saturday. My bands on the list are I Prevail, Linkin Park, and Obituary, and I would like to see Municipal Waste again too. Mary's bands are Funeral Portrait, The Plot and You, I Prevail, and Beartooth. Sunday, for me, it's Korn. I've wanted Korn to come back for years, and it's funny because we've been going to Rockville for, 11 or 12 years, and the Korn just kept coming up like every year. It got to the point where I was like, dude, I'm so tired of seeing them, and now I've wanted to see them for the last couple of years, so very happy that they're back. But for me, Sunday again, Korn, ICP again. Their set last year, absolutely amazing. If you were anywhere near the stage last year, or even they played the tiniest stage there, everybody got soaked with Fago. And they're playing one of the side stages this year, bigger, but I still anticipate it's going to be a soda bath there. I also want to see Testament, Return to Testament again, and possibly Seven Dust again. Mary is Bless the Fall, Motionless in White, ICP, and Memphis Mayfire. So those are the bands that we want to see. And I will note, again, like the boards or Facebook is loaded with everybody that has an opinion on Linkin Park, Green Day, etc. Keep the politics out of my music. I don't want to see them. These guys suck. Those guys are the worst. Why are they playing here and this and that? No one gives a fuck about anybody's opinions, dude. Let me just put it this way. If Kid Rock was playing there, nobody would have a problem. Stain played there a couple of years ago. Nobody had a problem. Nobody had shit to say about it. Like, hey, by the way, dude from Stain is playing here and he's spewing off about politics. Five Finger Death Punch has played more times than God at this point at the festival too. Again, same thing. There's a ton of bands. Everybody has a political leaning. Whether they want to say it or not, it doesn't influence the way that I feel about their music or their thing. I mean, if we were going to go down every last thing in like Hollywood and music and, any type of entertainment, sports, ball players and things like that, it's absolutely asinine to think, I'm not going to go see these guys. I'm not a Green Day fan, so, for me, I saw them a couple of years ago at the Hella Mega Tour because they were part of that tour. And I was curious, like, how did they sound? They sounded great live. I'm just not a fan of Green Day. To me, they're more of like an imitation, like, punk band that from the stuff that I grew up on, like the Ramones and Sex Pistols and Dead Kennedys and things like that. So for me, I'm not a big Green Day fan. Will I be watching some of their set? Hell yeah. Like, I think it's so stupid to just bash the bands because of, hey, this guy said this. And it's the same thing with Linkin Park. I got involved in a thread at one point on Facebook where everybody was like, oh, it's not Linkin Park. They shouldn't have done this. They shouldn't, the singer, they replaced the singer. There's two singers in Linkin Park, and Mike Shinoda founded Linkin Park. He's still playing there. It's a fraction of the people that played in Linkin Park to begin with, but the band carries on. For the amount of bitching that takes place online about Linkin Park, it's mind-blowing because the same level of bitching doesn't take place about Pantera playing shows now. Pantera was basically Dime and Vinny's band, and for years Vinny carried the torch after Dime was killed and said, no way should this band ever reform or get back together again. And here they are. They're playing with Zach, who I love, and Charlie, who I love, but calling themselves Pantera. The two main guys are gone, but we have a problem with Linkin Park because of the singer from Linkin Park is a female, and she's a Scientologist, and it's like, people, relax and enjoy some of the music that's out there, that these bands are playing, or don't, and you could walk away and go home early or whatever else, instead of spending so much time online just spewing hate and worrying about what other people, what your feelings are about these bands and pushing that onto other people. if we were to go down the list of like everybody else that's playing on the card that people are upset about, like especially for political leanings, I mean, let's cross off the list like Testament, because if you ever follow Alex Skolnick, he's pretty outspoken. Or let's cross off ICP because they were pretty spoken during the election. And I mean, it's literally like every band you could go down the list and say the same thing. So really, we're going to this festival. Let's enjoy it. The last thing I want to touch on is something that popped up, like I think at this point, like almost 2-3 weeks ago. And for folks that are part of this Rock Villains group that's online on Facebook, I should give you a quick backstory. Rock Villains started back in the day for like the group of people that were going to Rockville every year. It was in Jacksonville. That kind of dubbed themselves the Rock Villains. I think they even had like numbered things like, hey, I'm the 131st Rock Villain and so forth. That term really kind of got co-opted from the Danny Wimmer Presents people. And so like, hey, this is what we're going to call everybody. Everybody's like Rock Villains. And they took over the fan group and moderating and stuff like that too. Over the years, if you have not gone to Rockville for an extended period of time, like this year, this 2015 year, I want to say, when it started in Jacksonville, it was like 2 stages, or sorry, two days rather, and there were like they were, kind of the amount of stages kind of spread out over time. It started 1 day, went to 2 days and 3 days, and then they outgrew what they were at in Jacksonville and also needed to move to Daytona because of the fact that they were building like residences around where the event had been held in Jacksonville for so long. That's why they get the Rockville name, by the way. It's because of Jacksonville, instead of calling it Rocktona. But there were a couple of, what I would consider in the grand scheme of things, compared to what the event looks like today, some leaner years. So much so, like, tickets were being resold or sold to even to just get people in so that they would be able to buy beer and buy merch and things like that. But tickets sold for literally $2 a piece at one point, like as you got close to the event or that week of the event, for one of the years. Folks that turned this event around and really kind of made it what it was in this community were Danny Hayes, and Danny Hayes assembled this team, including Ashley, who is his assistant. And over the years, they really built up this community, building like, fan interaction. It was like a whole community online going back and forth with the DWP people. And they were all, able to be accessed online, including, the people that booked the bands and customer service and things like that. So if you had any type of issue, this went beyond just like trying to message like a faceless person, back at Danny Wimmer Presents to say, hey, I didn't get my tickets, or I didn't get this, or hey, this person at the gate is giving me a hard time about this, or these porta potties need to be clean. Danny Hayes was on top of things. When I mean on top of things, I mean like you get a response like that. The community grew by giveaways and soliciting feedback to find out like what worked, what didn't work, and so forth. And it was really run, at least like this, the community within Danny Hayes felt like a real tight-knit family type community. And the event really grew. So the last couple of years, gigantic compared to what it was with its startings. Over the last year, at the end of last Rockville, I had been messaged by Danny and Ashley and so forth. They're like, hey, if you got a minute, can we talk? And I thought I was in trouble for filming like at the event and stuff like that. One year we did have media, by the way, but vlogging at the event wasn't necessarily like what media was looking for, and trying to interview bands and stuff was kind of next to disastrous because they don't know you from anybody. But in any event, they reached out to me last year and said like, hey, we love what you do. They didn't get a chance, like when you get to these events, these people that work the events, they don't get a chance to watch like 15 minutes of this band or an hour of this band because they're working their asses off. Their comment was, we love what you do. We'd love to be able to partner with you and have you come out and do stuff like backstage and prep and see the stuff being built up and check out the offices and all this other stuff. I dialed into one of their meetings like through Zoom to get like the where they were talking about customer feedback for hotels and for customer experience going through the gate. And there's all this stuff like if you're not familiar with like customer journey mapping and things like that, and looking at these types of surveys that come back and how it's actionable. They really were working their asses off to find out how to make things better for folks. I'm going to take this long story short now and say they left the organization. They left Danny Wimmer 2-3 weeks ago. They announced it publicly and said, hey, by the way, Danny Hayes has left. He sold off his shares in the company back to Danny Wimmer. Ashley left as well. What their new future holds for them, who knows? I suspect that they'll continue to look at like some type of promotion or production or booking for other types of tours. Interestingly enough, I've seen posts, I think from Ashley at this point, or from maybe Danny online, because they continue to have online presence. But they've basically they've posted some stuff about Warped Tour and things too, and looking forward to going to some of those Warped shows. So, you know, maybe they end up with Kevin Lyman and they partner up that way to do some other things. But I think it's a great loss for DWP, and I think it's a great loss for this specific event. You know, to that they were really the guiding voices or guiding forces behind things. I also think that over the last year, there's been other folks that have left the organization that slowly kind of changed their names on Facebook and things too, or just dropped off. And I believe that maybe one of the bookers from the company left as well, although I'm not positive. So it's going to be really interesting to see how this event goes. And you know, while we sit here and we don't have set times yet and things like that, this for the first time this year, Sonic Temple is being run prior to Welcome to Rockville. Rockville had been the kickoff on this loudest summer or types of festivals that are out there, and this year we're not. So Rockville's kind of running second to Sonic, and Sonic doesn't have their set times yet either, and they're a week prior to Rockville. I'm assuming that doesn't mean anything much bigger in the grand scheme of things, although it is just kind of off. I think, you know, historically we had set times like 4 weeks in advance of the show. Last year we got them 2 weeks in advance, so that should mean that like at this point, like Sonic should have their set times, although if you follow along in there, it doesn't look like there's anything coming anytime soon. It just keeps saying like, oh, we're gonna have that soon. So, you know, take that with a grain of salt. So for a video where I didn't have much to say, at least much new stuff to say, that's all that I have to say. It was a lot. So we'll be there. We'll be there for all 5 days because we'll be there for the camp party also. We are not camping this year. For anybody that is camping this year, God bless, good luck. I enjoyed the camping experience last year. A couple years ago was a little bit worse. Like, you know, if you like to sleep, camping's not the place for you. But it is super hot, and there's ways to solve that with like portable air fans and things like that, and generators. But and then earplugs are generally needed also, because you're going to get a lot of fucking slayers throughout the night, which is really fun. It's a lot more fun, I think, when you're a lot younger. But still, you know, it's just you know, the thought of waiting in line to take like the community shower and stuff like that again this year just wasn't for me. So we'll be making the commute on a daily basis back and forth. But we'll be there all 5 days. If you see us, say hello. Let's take a picture. Let's talk shop and maybe grab a beer or something else. Rockville is one of those really awesome times of the year for us that we love being able to talk to everybody and you know, just say hello. So on that note, thanks a lot for watching. Thank you very much for all of your likes, comments, and subscriptions. Treat others the way you want to be treated. Have a great day. See you guys.